Welcome back to part 4 of today's talk with Dr. Jeremy Ayers and India Irie. Let's go back to the point that you were making just before the break, Jeremy, and just carry on from there.
Well, in India brought up something that is absolutely fundamental to the philosophy, and hopefully you'll see how powerful and revolutionary this could be. Individually, I tell my clients, my job is to get rid of you. And some of them, their jaws open because they expect the doctor to be wanting to, over and over. And listen, sometimes I have to see people for a year to get them well, and it's them that I help them to get them well. But here's a revolutionary philosophy for you. What if from tomorrow, and I want doctors, true doctors, and I know there's lots of really good people out there that just don't know what they're doing. And if they can grasp this and be retrained, they can become great, great doctors and really go home light-hearted in the work they're doing. But I think doctors should be extremely well paid for their importance in building healthy families, communities, societies, and so forth, because we understand how the toxicity can affect all the way out to society. So here's a revolutionary thought for you. As of tomorrow, doctors only get paid if you're vibrantly well.
Yay.
Now, I think anyone listening, right, and that's the way it should be. And I think anyone listening would understand the logic of that and how it flips everything on its head. Now, to just quantify that into the world we are currently in, the top 10 pharmaceutical, and by the way, for Christians listening, words are very important. Pharmaceutical, the root word, the origins of words is pharmakia. Go and look it up. And pharmakia means to practice witchcraft and cast spells in a more nefarious format. So the pharmaceutical industry have deliberately, with knowledge, chosen pharmakia as their root word. They've deliberately chosen the double-headed serpent snake as their symbol. Okay? So they're telling you what they are. Now, the top 10 pharmaceutical companies in the Fortune 500 combined profits are greater than the other 490 corporations' profits put together. Now, you need to think about that for a moment. It's the biggest business going on in the planet. And when you speak to the top 5 pharmaceutical companies, which is big, they don't hide it. 70% of their profits come from cancer. Now, everybody knows cancer is on the rise, right? And I'm beginning to share with you, you're not sick, you're toxic. Cancer, there is no cancer, there's only toxicity in the body trying to deal with it and how it changes the cells and da-da-da-da-da, right? But I'm strongly suggesting that if you're in business, which is then your motives are money, and you're in the pharmaceutical industry and 70% of your money comes from cancer, do you want less cancer or more cancer?
Well, it would seem you would be in the business of promoting cancer in some way.
You want
creating
more
it.
cancer. So would you be promoting true protocols or therapeutic modalities that truly heal cancer? No, you're going to be out of business. So until the people, and it's happening, make no mistake, because I hear it day in, day out, from old to young, they're fed up. They walk into doctors' surgeries, and before the doctors have finished, before the clients finish talking, they're writing a prescription for a drug. This is very common now. But when if that doctor only gets paid when you're well, his entire motives must change. And any doctor who's really a human, there are no doctors. There's just human beings, men and women with perceived levels of knowledge. When your income depends upon you being vibrantly well, and we need to define what vibrantly well is, they're going to very quickly remember that how do you keep someone well? You give them clean water, truly nutritious food. Listen, I've come from 10 years in New Zealand, and I was in the rural community. And this is just one story of many. I had a kiwi fruit grower, obviously New Zealand kiwi fruits, kiwis. And he came to see me, and he wasn't very well, nice chap. And he came into my clinic, and his head down like that. And I said, tell me, we've gotten some conversation and his problems are like, I said, do you spray your kiwi fruit? And his head went down. And he said, yeah. And I said, well, tell me, he said, I don't want to. I said, no, tell me, because it's your biggest export, and he's making a very good living out of it. He said, well, what we spray, and I'll tell you what he sprays on it in a minute, I have to be in a hermetically sealed tractor. Hermetically, if you don't know, audience, it's completely air sealed. And then he has a respirator on as well, because what he sprays the trees is cyanide. And every living thing dies, the birds, everything. And I looked at him in disbelief. And he said, if we don't, I said, why would you do this? He said, well, if we don't spray, we get maybe 60% yield if we're lucky of fruit. And if we do spray, we get 95%. And it's a difference between just covering costs and making money. Now, my brain works on, you're not sick, you're toxic. That includes nature. How on earth can nature produce more fruit when you're poisoning it? Well, it's very simple. The tree becomes toxic. So it produces more fruit to dump it in the fruit, which will eventually fall off the tree and cleanse it. This is no different from your tumors.
Oh, okay? God. Then we eat that.
Then you eat it. Now, I also lived in the rural community in New Zealand, and there was a very high level of cancer in the agricultural industry because they spray with pesticides that people have just got, pesticide, yeah. But from seed to even when they pull it every day, even when they pull it, and then they continue spraying with antifungal and other things. And the farmers that came to see me, lovely people, genuine people, would not eat what they grow. Now, if that is not a stronger statement than you can make, they would not eat what they grow because they know what's on it.
Listen, Jeremy, we live in the Skagit Valley of Northwest Washington, and we have a lot of potatoes grown here, and the potato farmers won't eat their own potatoes. It's the same thing.
Yeah, you can go right out here. I was actually looking to rent a house one time right out in the middle of the valley, and I got out of my truck, and I could smell the toxicity, and it's like, no, I would never live here. Are you kidding me? And I just got in my truck.
Imagine the macro is just an expression of the micro. So we are what we are living in.
The power of this is the simplicity of the foundational truth that can't be argued. And so if doctors were only paid to keep you well, they'd be the first ones to be promoting at government level down clean, organic. See, didn't used to be organic farming, it was farming.
Right.
The soil fallow. You grazed your animals so they pooped on it, and the minerals. You see, it's the same as human beings. The soils are so devoid in minerals because they've been over-farmed that the plants get sick. And when you are mineral deficient, the environment changes, and the insects, which is their job, will come and eat it to break it down and release it, you see? So they want crops, so they spray it. And you start this vicious circle, right? And they start putting in the key nutrients to make it grow big and look big, but it's nutrient deficient. So you have nutrient deficient human beings plus incredible poisons going into their body, 200 recorded regularly in the meconium of newborn babies, 200 chemicals, including DDT. And you start to see the picture. Now, if you've trained doctors through the pharmaceutically sponsored, pharmaceutically induced indoctrination of 7 years of almost mind control because they make the doctors do 60 hours, they haven't got time to think. And the really good doctors, and ask them, the really good doctors who start to see the picture changing, if they go and ask, they get booted off the course or they lose their license. But if it was all reversed and we started to promote the truth, doctors would be out there making sure from government level that people are eating real food. We would have defined what real food, what our ancestors were eating, and most of these diseases will disappear in a very short period of time.
Well, here's, I've thought about this repeatedly during the course of this interview. There's only two professions on the earth that aren't professionals, and they practice, and one of those is doctors, right? They practice medicine.
Yeah, because they haven't got it right.
Exactly.
Still practicing.
Some haven't gotten it right.
I want to bring you guys, Jeremy has an amazing story, and another thing that really, I just got a twinkle in my eye when I heard about this guy, because one of the first things that he told me was that he'll tell anybody who's in a position of government, any head of state, anybody who's political, anybody who's in a medical school, he's even said, I will work free for a year. Give me a hospital. Tell them the rest, Jeremy, and then let them know how many takers you've had.
Yeah,
and
well,
that'll segue into why you're doing Naturally Better.
this is part of my awakening, because this is what led to this project, which will be a natural hospital that has not been seen on this planet in a very, very long time, with the best of Aboriginal knowledge, indigenous people knowledge, and the best of true science and true knowledge into one philosophy, with a college and a conference designed to be a hub to draw these people whose only drive is for truth and to serve mankind and then to share it. But it started when I started to really work all this out. I then said, well, okay, the solution's easy. All I've got to do is, before I knew how things were really run, is put myself saying, I will, if you give me one ward of any hospital anywhere in the world, excuse me, with the team that I choose, with correct funding, you can record us 24/7, and we will document everything for 1 year. If we haven't dramatically changed the success rates that you guys think you're getting, and you see true recovery, we will never be able to help everybody. It's just not possible. But a dramatic turnaround, I will never work again in this field, and you don't have to destroy me as you've done twice and publicly try and ruin me. I'll just go away and I'll start a nice cafe because I love cooking. I'll stay out of your hair, and you'd have proved me wrong. And I've offered this publicly to any country, to any government, and so far I've had none.
So what'd you do instead, darling? Tell them about your work.
Well, New Zealand.
Yeah, tell us.
This is why she's the PR person.
Oh, yeah. Well, New Zealand was a turning point for me, because I started to discover the global deception that there are no countries, they're all corporations, and on and on and on. And I started to see the jigsaw pieces come together, why these people are never going to approach me and take me up and ask me, and they're only ever going to try and fight me and people like me, because their agenda never was to help their mankind. The agenda never was to see healthy societies and nations co-creating and living and sharing and looking after each other. Never was. And the Māori of Aotearoa, which is the correct name for the land of commonly known as New Zealand, but it's Aotearoa, their original indigenous culture, as many share, they all share the same, which was the Humana. Their philosophy was Humana, which is why it became the Humana Project originally, which is to restore health. And that's what we're talking about. You need to restore health to a human being, not destroy it, which is what's going on. And that was our first real chance, because they were going to fund us multi-millions of dollars through their land claims, and we had land lined up to start building the first working model, where we would obviously make some mistakes and learn, and people would come and go, and all that's involved in a new project. It's just the reality. But the core philosophy would grow, and we would be transparent, and then we would replicate it around the world. Now, since that didn't work out because of timing and everything's meant to be, but what has shifted since that, and shifted since I've come public again and broadcasting, is we are now in a time where people at all levels of this structure that's been set up are awakening to what's gone on. And they see that if they don't change it, we're all doomed. And I can tell you we're not. We've won. It's a matter of time. And anyone out there who has still got nefarious intent against mankind, all people, you better get on board quick, because you can't stop the light. And I haven't even talked about light and how really the water holds the light in the body, but the level of light that's hitting this planet cannot be stopped. The sooner you recognize that it's your turn to cross over and rejoin helping humanity, the quicker and happier your own life's going to be, because whether you like it or not, this cannot be stopped. Its time has come, and people are, at the very least, sick and tired of all the lies and all the poisoning and all the deceit. And at the higher end, as we know, massive communities are forming globally who are singing the same song, maybe a little bit differently, but they all, whether they be a Christian group or an atheist group or this group or that group, the core information they've learned is the same. And it's about coming back together, embracing truth, and being transparent, and a bit like Nelson Mandela did when South Africa was allegedly set free. Not quite sure that's correct, but nonetheless, was he had truth forums. I forget the right name for it now. But if you're not going to not be prosecuted, he would allow you to come out and share your story and why you got there, so that you could help the healing. Well, there's a lot of healing to be done on this planet, but it must start with foundational truth. And I question anyone to argue our basic philosophies and truths. It's just, you just can't break it.
So can you tell us about about what it is? And I agree with you, and I think we would all agree with what you just said. But can you tell us, give us some specifics of what it is that you're doing?
Yes.
With your project, and how people can find out more and get involved in that kind of thing?
Well, critically in this internet world, excuse me, is our main website, which is naturallybetterclinics.com. This website is still being built. It's quite a monster that we built. It's becoming a beautiful monster, but it's quite a monster. It's really 4 websites in one. And one of the critical elements of that website is our broadcasting station that we're about to launch, which is called Naturally Better TV. And we already have amazing broadcasters from all levels of the jigsaw puzzle, because you need all levels if we're going to transform through this period that we're in. But we were very lucky. I hope
your dog's
validating this
about
for
that
you.
too.
Yeah, you get on, man. Get on, man. You whip that ass. Bloody damn
Is she going to have her own? Is she having her own show?
That's it. She probably saw
Cheering
it.
section.
But we were fortunate that we've been gifted some land in the Yucatan. So it became even more real that we could start building this thing. And this phase it's a multi-million-dollar project. And right now we've got a crowdfunding at the grassroots level on the naturallybetterclinics.com. And we're talking to people at very high levels who are talking about funding, who recognize that the world is changing dramatically and know that the shifts are happening, and everyone in between. So it's a very surreal time, but it's going to happen. It is happening. It's really how and it evolves. But fundamentally, when the whole project, and even if I was given, $50 million tomorrow to do the first one, which is very possible with some of the people we're talking to, it would be 3 years to build it. But from a fundamental starting point, we will be using a sacred geometry architect, a brilliant chap in Ireland, and who recognizes that geometry and positioning amplifies energies. And this isn't voodoo or, the Russians are doing heaps of scientific. You know, this is real science. So geometry, I mean, take it where we are now. Anyone walks into a hospital, you feel sick. You don't want to be. I don't know a hospital anywhere in the world where you walk in and you feel relaxed and this is lovely. It's more energetic.
Yeah, if you want to get sick, go to a hospital.
Indeed.
Exactly. And a matter of fact, according to the FDA, the number 2 premature cause of death is being under the care of a doctor or in a hospital. Dr. Tennant will tell you it's number 1.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but no one wants to be in hospital. Well, so fundamentally, architecture has to change. And that is not only shapes which amplify energies that can be measured, but also light and air coming into the building. So that is critical. It's a place that you go in, you don't want to leave. I mean, we set up our home clinics and people don't want to leave. The energetics are very, very high. Vibrationally, it's a place where you don't want to leave. And we're told, we got a testimonial on the website from a chap called Billy, and he said, I just don't want to leave.
Absolutely. And it's important too for you to include, Jeremy, that this is, you know, a lot of people hear the word project and you think it's like, oh, it's an idea and they're wanting this clinic that's running. There's already a clinic running under this philosophy that's been running, like Jeremy's doing now in Barbados. He's done it before. So this is more like another phase of expansion of what's currently going on, because we'll have to keep something there, because they won't allow him to leave if he doesn't promise to migrate back and forth every few weeks.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Expanding. Go ahead, Jeremy. No,
well, you know, we're not knowing where and when the funding will come from. We have to kind of work in several realities, and we're trying to get to phase 2, which allows us to start a very evolved, highly equipped clinic in the Yucatan and one here in Barbados, because I'm working with some very good people here that are very keen to see us. Maybe even Barbados might be the first place that we see real health reforms. But anyway, but so the architecture is very important. Then how the people are trained. And we're very lucky to have Valerie Warwick, who's an ex-oncology nurse of 18 years, who I've interviewed twice. And your listeners may want to watch those interviews because they're very revealing at the oncology level, where she will share with you that people aren't dying from cancer, they're being killed by the treatment, which we've known for years. But when it comes from an oncology nurse, and she tells you that the oncologist makes 70% of their money from prescribing chemo, you can start to see there's a problem straight away. So listening from the horse's mouth is very relevant. But at the same level, getting someone like Valerie, we have to retrain the nurses to become naturopathic nurses, so that when we take people in and they start going through their cleanse, heal processes, they don't stop it. They start embracing it and start celebrating when the body starts to get the energy to help it. And then our job is to help it out so that they can then heal. But when you've seen what I've seen come out of people, and when you talk to people like my wife who's experienced what came out of her from a terminal diagnosis to vibrantly well, you no longer need convincing. At this point, people are listening. I need to intellectually appeal to understand the level of poison in their bodies beyond their imagination, and their bodies throwing up different symptoms that are then being labeled this disease, this syndrome, this da-da-da-da, rubbish. And so at the same level, we have a working college teaching the new doctors of our time, what I call the true doctors of our time, naturopaths, and a conference designed to at least quarterly bring in the best people who've earned their integrity, earned their stripes, and we're aware of many of them, to come in and share. We document it and we share it out, and then re-strengthen the teaching philosophy. So the curriculum must be flexible to expand, because I don't have all the...
Check your microphone, Jeremy. Sorry.
Okay.
You're clicking again.
Okay. I don't have all the answers, but I know a lot, and I know a lot about the philosophy. And I know, is that still clicking?
It's better.
No.
Okay.
Well, now you're clicking, but...
Hang on. Hold that thought.
Pause.
Is that better?
Yes.
Maybe if I just kind of, Anyway, so it's important that we are constantly evolving based on the philosophy, and we'll also be documenting, probably for the first time, correctly, all these different syndromes and diseases, and watch how they become well or significantly improve. So, it's really...
huge.
Huge. Huge.
You're taking on a lot, but it's definitely needed, and it's good that you have some high-powered people that are on board.
Yeah. So now, where are you in the process? I mean, you've got the plan. I've seen the building drawings, by the way. I love the shape of the building.
Yeah.
That is sort of the spiral. It reminds me of sacred geometry. In fact, it's based in sacred geometry. I would.
Totally.
Yeah. So is it just a waiting game now, or I mean, are there ways that people can help you get this moving? And
Yes.
if there are, tell us, what can we do?
Well, there's a multitude of ways. At the grassroots level, you can get onto the naturallybetterclinics.com and you can contribute to the crowdfunding platform that we have, independently on our website, and you can do monthly contributions or one-offs. If you are of better means, greater means, philanthropic means, you can contact us. Although there's some, large philanthropic donations, you can contact us to see how you can get involved. If you are intellectually able to contribute and gifted, this is the Aboriginal and the true scientist, get in contact with us, get involved with MBTV, because this is all about attracting the greatest minds on the planet with the sole intent of truth and helping our fellow man. That in itself, I mean, it's been said for many years, I believe, if you want wealth and treasure and money, worship the goddess of knowledge, because the goddess of wealth will get jealous and chase you. So we want, and it's happening, because if you understood some of the conversations we're having, it's surreal with who we're conversing with. And I am in little doubt that it's going to come at a level bigger that, if I can't tell you some of the stories right now for reasons that I can't share, but, most people wouldn't believe me if I told you some of the stories I'm having in the conversations, because it's time. We're ready. Most people recognize, at the very least, there's something very wrong with this planet, and it's time to start putting it right. And dis-ease really is a blessing in disguise, that we are not at ease at all levels of our being. And that includes work, society.
It's a huge project and one that's so needed. I wish it could happen tomorrow.
You and me both.
Right.
Yeah, but it is happening. The most extraordinary thing in 2 years is the number of people from the number of places working with us, and that is only exponentially going to continue, in my view. And as for doctors, yes, I'm pretty harsh on you, doctors, because you've absolutely destroyed some of the best people on this planet for me. But I want you to get involved. I want you. Is that still my microphone? It's really.
I think it might.
I don't know who's very crunchy. Yes.
Yeah, but I'm going to hold it, see if that helps. But I really want doctors involved. I want them to be human beings again, and to be absolutely invested in truth and their fellow man. I want them to have excellent livings, to get the accolades that their ego may require, but for the right reasons. And we believe that there are many brilliant people out there practicing incorrectly, and I hope them to become my friends rather than historically our enemies, because I know through my professional life they have gone out to destroy us every time. Now, why would you go out to destroy us? Because you're shit scared. When I was in New Zealand, I was in a small community of 5,000, and after 2 or 3 years, I had 1,000 people on my books, and the local pharmacist who I worked with very closely, because he understood what was going on. He said, the doctors are after you because they're losing business. Well, the silly buggers should have come and worked with me.
Right.
And this is what I say over and over again. Don't fight me or anyone. There's plenty like me. And also, I'm very impressed at the level of the average human being out there, their level of knowledge now. They could easily be natural doctors in no time with their level of research and knowledge, because this stuff is not complicated. It's just not.
We've made it much more complicated. Sorry, Roger.
I think there's two things that, and hopefully I can remember both of them. But the first one is, and and I'd like to get your input on both of them, actually. Number one is, I heard the Dalai Lama talk about this years ago when he was addressing Eastern medicine versus Western medicine. And there was this idea at the time that, especially in New Age communities, that Eastern medicine was the best thing that you could ever do, and you need to get rid of Western medicine. But his point was, no, you have to bring the best of both. It's like, and I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but like if I broke my leg, I would need to go have the leg fixed. Western medicine is really good at that.
But there's a lot of things in Western medicine that it precludes. Like they don't give you the option of, auric sound healing, the reknitting of bones. They don't tell you that teeth can regenerate themselves. It's so limited.
Well,
so again,
yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, that we reassess what we call the triage level and trauma care as well.
Right. So, I mean, I don't, that's why I'm just asking. Like my wife she fractured in an accident, she fractured her tibia and fibula, and she has a titanium rod in one of her legs. Mm-hmm. I mean, because it was basically the bone was just shattered in pieces. You could see it on the x-ray. So, I mean, how is that something that osteopaths would even attempt to address, or would you say go have that surgically repaired?
Right. It's an excellent question. Let me answer it in two ways. Right now, the arguable area of expertise that modern medicine is in is trauma-based accidents, that sort of things, where they can, not always skillfully, because we're very acutely aware that surgeons, there's all levels of actual, expertise, but in the hands of a surgeon, they're miracle workers and, no doubt saving lives. At that point, they should just about stop and hand back to us to help them to really heal, because surgery in its very essence creates additional problems that I won't go into now. All right, so one could argue that, right? And if someone shattered their leg right now, that would be the place to go. But what I'm talking about is a long time ago, we have been fundamentally put in the wrong direction, and we've gone a long way down that road in the wrong direction. You don't even know this existed over here. We are acutely aware that there are many stories from origine cultures, particularly the Aborigines, that have healed with first-hand witnesses of broken bones in minutes through vibration, usually chanting, or, what do you think these Red Indians were doing when they were chanting around? They just had a tune in their head. There's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason they had these things.
No, they were bored.
Right, yeah. There's a reason they had these things. Now, there's a very well documented 3-minute clip of a hospital in China where they have a woman with an inoperable tumor, and the 3 doctors focus on a tone, and they start making a tone, and they have ultrasound, I think it is, and the tumor disappears in 3 minutes. Now, once you start to bring the jigsaw pieces of understanding of what we are and how we're made, and I haven't even begun to talk at the vibrational level and how atoms are organized through frequencies and light, this will just seem like airy-fairy, tree-hugging, green gloop drinking, caftan-wearing hippie shit, right? But once you start to understand, that this stuff's real, and the cutting edge where there's some brilliant minds and brilliant original knowledge waiting to work together, and some of them already are, that the cutting edge of, let's call it medicine, is vibrational frequency healing. I am yet to know the limits of what we could do once we understand those frequencies better. The people before us, like Raymond Rife, who's the most famous of frequency medicine, was destroyed. by the pharmaceutical industry, absolutely destroyed by him. And the reason they destroyed him was because they knew his power and the knowledge he's gained. So the climate we have to foster is transparency and a thirst for truth, to bring, people before profit, to bring in those scientists and people that have not been corrupted, and many have, by high wages and high salaries and other, payments that are not in the realms of money, so that we can once again rediscover where we should have been. And it's certainly not here. And I am absolutely certain we can repair human beings beyond our comprehension, sort of Star Trek stuff, beyond our comprehension through frequencies and light. I just don't fully understand it yet, but I am certain there are people that do.
Absolutely. You have a conversation with Carrie, because she did that with her broken arm, and they wanted to do surgery. She said, no, just give me a few hours. And she did it in 6 hours. Now,
wow. So that leads me to another question, my second question. And I don't know, I've just seen this from afar. I haven't got deep into it. But recently there's been this thing about this guy, Dr. Oz, right? And how they're like, and I don't know whether he is a quack or whether the mainstream is trying to destroy him. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that?
Let's be polite.
Well, please do, okay?
All right. I don't really follow Dr. Oz, but people do come to me and say, hey, Dr. Oz just said the very same thing you were saying. And I say to them a little bit sarcastically, well, it must be right then. Dr. Oz is saying, but as a rule of thumb, currently, you cannot get on television to that level unless you're playing the game. There's a reason people like me are not on the television. And many people, there's a reason why my mentor, who's I think clicked into her 80s, was stalked by the British Bullshit Corporation, commonly known as the BBC, and made her to look like a quack, where I have first-hand knowledge that she is one of the walking geniuses of our time and has helped so many people from incurable down, more than I've known of any other human being. But the British Bullshit Corporation managed to make her look like a complete quack in 15 minutes. So as a rule of thumb, anybody speaking on television are usually using the sandwich technique. They're aware that the populace is waking up. So they take some truth and sandwich bullshit in the middle of it, because then it's very palatable. Now, I don't know Dr. Oz. He might be a very nice chap and misguided, but I doubt it, because you just can't get onto these forums, because none of the people I respect, and many of them are absolutely brilliant, are on the television. And I don't know why not. They're hugely personable. They're hugely knowledgeable. Their experience of helping people is unquestionable. Their statistics of getting people well is way above any of these people. But the only time they'll get in the newspaper is to discredit them. Or on
give you 2 examples, Roger, on that, because I've seen a few things where he's been out in the front.
Okay.
When we get to the end. So he was on Pier with, what's his name? Pierce, whatever his name is.
Piers Morgan.
Yeah, that guy. Piers Morgan says, well, I heard that people say you can get sick. The flu shots are dangerous. It damages your immune system. You shouldn't have them. Dr. Oz comes out and he's like, absolutely you should. It keeps everyone well. No one in the history of the earth gets sick from a shot that's meant to keep you well. 10 days later, Piers Morgan was sick on the air. Next time, Dr. Oz was, he did a show talking about the efficacies of vaccinating children and how important it is. And they also add in the flu vaccine and then pneumonia. And then he was talking about the things for cervical cancer for teen and preteen girls now. On the side, someone asked him when he wasn't on stage, do you vaccinate your daughters, your teen daughters with this? Absolutely not. I've heard enough. Mm-hmm. Well, why are you telling people one thing, but you don't live what you say? I see you, Doctor.
Right. But the thing is, but The reason I bring it up is because it's his own that are trying to destroy him. It's like the medical association.
The distraction, something to keep people excited. And, oh, look at what, just like Caitlyn Jenner.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
It's not real, but pay attention.
I believe it all to be, as Shakespeare or Sir Francis Bacon, whoever he really was, said, you know, the world's a stage and we're all characters in a play. This is all theatre, and you'll see many people. Listen, if it truly is, and it is being controlled, and that's all coming to an end, and we're going to go through a great evolution. We are in the middle of evolution. You have to understand how the public are sitting. And they know the public are going towards natural medicine, and we need to get the natural doctors and train them even better, because some of them are practicing allopathically, but with great hearts, you know. But what you've got to create is you've got to still draw those people in who are still thinking the television is the bastion of all information and reliability. And you've got to give someone that's attractive and likable, and they're saying a lot of stuff you can. You'll see lots of women, particularly in America, of course they want to be natural. So it's very important you have somewhere saying they're natural, this, but make sure you vaccinate, because it's far more palatable. Well, if you understand the whole picture, no one on this planet in that position could say, in truth, make sure you put mercury, formaldehyde, aborted fetal tissue, diseased monkey brains, aluminum and formaldehyde, to name but a few, in your newborn baby. And only language is going to set us free intellectually, because unfortunately we have to deprogram, open the doors so the clicks start to go off, and then they see it. You know, the first thing we recommend is turn your television off.
Or that a celebrity wakes up, because then everyone will believe it that same day. That day, everyone will believe it. Just put it on the Inquirer.
Right.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow, you have given us so much to think about today, Dr. Jeremy and India. Thank you both so much for coming on to Empower You and sharing this with us. I really don't want to, but I feel like we need to bring this to a close. We've been on the air now almost 2 hours. And I would love to have you on again, and maybe you can, tell us more about the progress that you've made, and what the center will be like, and who will want to go there, and that type of thing. But before we close, one more time, tell us how we can help, or where we can go to help, and where we can go to get more information about what you're up to in this.
Indy, do you want to give that information?
Anybody who wants to find out more about the crowdfunding site where you can go and donate, whether it be your expertise of signing up for the newsletter and those sorts of things, the details of the project, the location, all about the core staff, all of that information is located at www.naturallybetterclinics.com, and all of the information is there. Also from there, you can link to what's being built. It's under construction, Naturally Better TV, in the menu buttons. That's available to link to from there, as well as I do try my very best to do a blog. It's several times a week, so there might be 10 or 12 different new things every couple of days. So there's all kinds of material that we find, because we're forever, I don't know, I'm no expert in any of this, and Jeremy, God, as much as he learns, he's forever immersed in new information all the time and sharing things. So as we come across new research and just amazing things that we can do at home, because we're very practical. Everything doesn't mean you have to come to the clinic, but there are things you can take under your own control. Small changes in your life, like, you might not know what pepper can do, or like you have lemons. Did you have any idea what you could do with them? Banana peels whiten your teeth. Random information that, like I said, things we've never been told. So you can find all of that again at naturallybetterclinics.com, and that will link you to all of the other services. Naturally Better TV will be launching in the very, very near future, where we hope to find Roger and Janet for human design,
yes, you will.
Human relationship conversations, and we can drag the old posse back together and do this as much as we like.
We're biding our time.
Yeah.
Just biding our time.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, India.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks for coming on.
And go ahead, Jeremy.
Well,
Closing
I just
thoughts.
wanted to leave you or the audience with, because it's a lot that we've talked about today, and if it's new to people, it's going to be initially quite challenging. But I'll leave you just to remind you these three things. You're not sick. You're toxic. Toxick. It's the truth. Go research it. It's the truth. Number two, your bodies do not know how to work against you. They were never made that way. We just have to understand what they're doing and start working with them again and helping them. And they will never, ever lie to you. And number three, the truth will set you free, and it will set you dis-ease-free. And with that, I wish you all the very best, and hopefully you'll come follow us and work with us, and we can all have a big part in this evolution that we are experiencing.
Yes, hear, hear, to a healthy world.
Right.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
For joining us today, and look for other great videos of wonderful speakers that we've talked to on